Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
And welcome to Sofa Reviews. Today we're watching Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
Released in 2001, it's the first animated movie to feature photorealistic graphics.
So we start with Dr. Aki Ross on an alien planet.
Although we quickly learn that this is a dream before we're given some exposition.
She explains that an unnamed threat appeared 34 years ago and she's trying to save the Earth.
As part of her plan, she lands in the abandoned ruins of old New York.
She gets off the ship with a gun and seems to be looking for something before deciding to set off a flare to alert any nearby enemy.
After setting off another flare, she checks her tracker, detecting several blips.
Oh my god, enemies! How did they find me past the stealth flare?
She runs off, escaping some enemies before the soldiers arrive.
They land on their green gas cushions before opening fire.
After catching up with her, they demand to know what she's doing there.
Just what the hell do you think you're doing?
There's a life form in here.
There hasn't been life here in years.
Well, there is now.
A life form? I'm sorry, we're in an incredible amount of danger. Could you be a bit more vague?
She storms off and the soldiers follow after her, eventually finding the life form that they were looking for.
They get attacked again, and in between tedious attempts at banter, we learn that the enemies are called phantoms.
They have a brief firefight before the soldiers and the doctor manage to escape.
Which enables us to enjoy some cliches. Focused and determined doctor.
About it. The fact of the matter is, it was worth the lives of you and your men.
The squad of tough black guy, aggressive bitchy woman, and cocky dickhead.
She thinks you're a man.
I think she's an idiot.
I know you're not a man.
I think you're an idiot.
And finally, the captain who used to date the doctor.
I don't believe this. You have not changed a bit.
They return to the barrier city where they need to get scanned for entry, revealing that the captain is infected.
Instead of being reasonable and burning him alive, she instead goes through without being scanned, letting him out, potentially infecting all of them.
She puts him on a table and brings up what looks like a video game as she tries to track the virus.
I don't really know what's going on or why I should care, but she manages to save him just in time.
Before she can be scanned, Sid turns up to wave her through, taking the plant with him.
In the lab, we get some talk about spirits and how the spirit of this plant is important.
They explain that every life form, including the phantoms, have spirit energy, and the plant is number 6 of 8 that they're collecting.
And now for the tedious hippie bullshit underpinning the entire film.
All life is born of Gaia, and each life has a spirit. Each new spirit is housed in a physical body. Doctor.
Go on.
Through their experiences on Earth, each spirit matures and grows. When the physical body dies, the mature spirit, enriched by its life on Earth, returns to Gaia.
Anyway, later we're introduced to General Hine at a council meeting where he's pushing for the Zeus cannon, a giant weapon to be used against the phantoms.
No reason is given for the council not wanting to use their brand new superweapon, and despite having already voted on the matter, they now want to hear evidence.
Sid explains that all attacks so far have been ineffective at removing the phantoms.
And as you see, overall phantom density remains the same. The newly risen aliens respond to the attack by burrowing even deeper into the Earth.
You mean they run away when attacked? How odd.
Sid explains that the Zeus cannon could actually damage the Earth, referring to a spirit for the Earth.
This coming from the guy who earlier burnt all reference to this theory and warned Dr. Ross not to mention it because people would think she was crazy.
The General seizes on this and tries to use it to discredit Sid.
Did you come here just to talk about some Gaia theory? To tell us that planet is alive? That it has a spirit?
Oddly enough, the General is using evidence, observation and logic, while the Doctor is using spiritual bullshit. Fire the cannon.
Sid continues to explain his plan, that he can create an energy wave the opposite of the phantoms, cancelling them out.
Unfortunately for him, the General continues with his relentless logic.
Gathering plants and animals from around the world to fight the phantoms is utter nonsense.
This causes Dr. Ross to get angry, and leads her to dispute the fact that they have no evidence.
Look.
She's infected, because it wasn't really obvious from the start when she was worried about being scanned.
After the meeting, Sid is worried that this will make things too dangerous for Dr. Ross.
Luck has nothing to do with it. Faith.
So you don't believe in luck, but you believe in fate and spirits. Is your doctorate in aromatherapy?
Later on, Gray Edwards, the captain from earlier, comes along to catch up with Aki.
Presumably, now that he's discovered she's terminal, he's interested in her again because he's afraid of commitment.
The squad sabotage the lift so the two can get to know each other better.
Do people really manage to fix fundamental issues of incompatibility just by being trapped in a lift together?
Dr. Ross explains to Grey where they found all of the previous spirits.
I told her that she wasn't dying, just returning to the Earth Spirit, to Gaia. She told me that she was ready to die.
I'm starting to know how she feels.
The lift restarts and Grey is summoned to a meeting with the General.
Yes, sir.
What were your impressions of Dr. Ross?
Nice tits.
The General explains that he wants Grey to accompany and monitor Dr. Ross.
I hate the fact that he's blatantly the bad guy, even though he's the only one making sensible decisions based on the available evidence.
There is an alien infestation, Captain. We don't know what it may be doing to her. The alien presence could be affecting her judgment.
Dr. Ross has another dream which she believes is the infection trying to talk to her, but also that she's dying.
They land at an old battle site where we discover that the seventh spirit is some bacteria on a dead soldier's backpack.
Phantoms show up and kill one guy before the rest can escape.
On the ship, the squad sent to watch the captain as he watches the doctor explain that because she's infected, they'll have to arrest her.
The captain won't allow this before Dr. Ross wakes up from another dream, getting shot in the process.
Luckily, the ship gets attacked by a phantom and the only person who gets killed is the soldier who's following his orders.
Back at the city, Sid explains that Dr. Ross wanted a sympathetic spirit in order to help her through the operation.
I don't understand.
That's because it's bullshit.
Somehow, the captain is able to enter Dr. Ross's dream.
On an alien planet?
How is that possible?
Because you're in a dream, dickhead.
She explains to him that she's been having this dream for several months now.
You're really here, aren't you?
No, he's not. It's a dream. He's really unconscious in a lab being molested by Sid.
Meanwhile, the General has seized everything in Sid's lab, including recordings of Dr. Ross's dreams.
Dr. Ross's dream should be all the Council needs to authorize the firing of the Zeus cannon.
Now that line is incredibly important because it makes the next 25 minutes of the film retarded and needless.
Back in the dream, and they see the alien planet blow up for some reason.
They wake up, Dr. Ross having worked out the plot just in time to get arrested.
We see the General talking to his men about a special mission.
You've lost family, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
That's why I trust you.
Yeah, you can always trust people whose minds are clouded with emotion to make sensible decisions.
It turns out the General is going to lower the barrier, allowing an attack which will force the Council to allow him to use the Zeus cannon.
Despite the fact that he's already got all the evidence he needs to convince the Council, and while firing the cannon would kill all the phantoms in the crater, it wouldn't kill the ones in the city.
In the prison cells, Dr. Ross gets the opportunity to explain the phantoms.
They're not an invading army. They're ghosts.
And there we have it. They're fighting alien ghosts.
Meanwhile, everything's going wrong for the General as it's discovered that the phantoms can travel through pipes full of the energy that kept them out.
So after the film has had its moment of trying to make us feel sorry for the phantoms...
Think of the dream, Grey. How they died. Since then, all they've known is suffering.
we get to see them murder an entire city.
The power cut means our heroes can escape, but later they crash their car, injuring Sarge.
Your hand, Jane.
Right.
No, wait. We're risking further injury. We need the proper tools to cut him out.
They're in my ship.
No, Doc. No drugs.
Well, good news. This is a mercy killing.
They leave him behind in the hangar bay before prepping the ship for launch.
And of course, as always happens, there's a problem that they have to go outside and fix manually.
They manage to fix the problem, but immediately get killed afterwards.
The Sarge starts shooting from the crashed car, which is lucky because if he'd done that earlier, the other two might have survived.
Sarge gets killed and Gray tells Dr. Ross and Sid to go on without him.
Although he quickly remembers that his sacrifice is actually later on in the film, and so jumps onto the ship.
They head into outer space, the General heading to the Zeus cannon. Sid discovers that the final spirit is actually in the crater.
If we can't bring the final spirit here, we can go there and complete the wave inside the crater.
Yes, exactly.
And how do we do that? Exactly.
I can construct a device.
Oh, you just need to build a victory device. Here's one we made earlier.
The General gets the codes for the cannon as Dr. Ross and the Captain head to the crater.
They head off in the only ship in the entire film that actually offers protection against the Phantoms.
The General starts firing the cannon at the crater despite somehow knowing that the Doctor is in the small craft that they've suddenly detected.
Luckily, the incredibly powerful cannon does absolutely no damage to the ship, although it does kill the 8th spirit.
A second blast from the cannon causes the ship to crash. However, it doesn't take too much damage as it uses a green gas cloud.
Dr. Ross calls the General to ask him to stop firing, but unfortunately for her, he responds with well thought out and reasonable arguments.
General Hine, you have to listen.
Alien Gaia, Earth Gaia, Doctor, even if I believed in such nonsense, the fact remains the Earth is under attack from an aggressor who must be destroyed at all costs.
They fire the cannon once more, causing the giant tentacle monster to grow even bigger.
It's a good thing Dr. Ross told the General about that, rather than wasting time with hippie bullshit.
Sid tells them that they might be able to find another spirit as the Phantoms are near Earth's Gaia, so Grey can't shoot any of them.
Then what do you suggest I do, Doctor? Ask them to play nice?
Combat strategy is your area of expertise, Captain, not mine.
Thanks for that, Sid, you prick.
Dr. Ross has another dream where she discovers that the Phantom infecting her has become the 8th spirit, and that means that she's somehow cured.
I don't see how you could have found the final spirit.
It found me, Doctor.
So she sets up a wave from her ship which causes the Phantoms to dissolve.
Meanwhile, the General tries to fire the cannon again despite the fact that it's overheating, and so it explodes.
For some reason the wave hasn't killed the Phantom tentacle, so Grey decides to take the completed signal from Ross and sacrifice himself to destroy it.
This seemed easier than telling you I'm scared of commitment.
This causes another wave to be released, killing all the Phantoms.
We see Dr. Ross with the corpse of the Captain when she spots a bird, meaning that all this death and suffering was definitely worth going through.
And so the film ends, and one of the best things I can say about this movie is that the animation is top notch. Considering it's over a decade old, the animation is still comparable with a lot of modern video games.
Well, yeah, sure, it looks nice at least with the people, but a lot of the scenes are quite dark and dull and uninteresting. The Phantom's designs are quite boring, and it seems they spent most of their time just working on Dr. Ross's hair.
It does, however, show a lot of creativity, especially with things such as the armour designs, which seem to have inspired Gears of War. Also, while odd, it does have some other interesting ideas, like the portable cushions to prevent falling.
Of course, they made sure to keep all that creativity away from the plot. Generic characters, it's full of cliches and almost laughably predictable plot that just becomes really painfully dull to have to sit through. It is also really annoying to see the General. If he hadn't opened the barrier, everything he had done was perfectly fine, reasonable and correct. They just make him impatient for no good reason. He's the bad guy because he's sceptical about these things, but the good guys do nothing to convince anyone of their argument.
It was nice, however, to see a fairly competent and intelligent hero for once. It was also nice to see a world that, while not very well done in my opinion, portrayed the real world becoming the Final Fantasy world, showing the monsters and spiritual side to everything before there's a lot of fantasy elements in the world. Also, with the effects of Earth's Gaia and the visuals in many parts of the movie, it reminds me a lot of Final Fantasy VII in some ways.
Well, yeah, but that game never annoyed me half as much as this film does, and I think that's probably because the people in the game weren't as ridiculously stupid or useless. They've been at war with the Phantoms for 34 years, yet they don't know the first thing about them. Their guns aren't particularly effective against them, and their armour and ships offer absolutely no protection.
Captain? Yes, Neil? Just so you know, I agree with the let's get out of here thing. Duly noted.
Ultimately, it's a very pretty looking movie with very impressive visuals for the time, and if you like the spiritual side of things, you may enjoy this movie quite a bit.
This film is a vapid, disease-ridden whore. Sure, it might look okay, but there's nothing inside of any value, and I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole.
Is it over?